we can really speak to the interests and talents of the people in the team now, where some engineers, it would be a nightmare to work in a solutions team. And now we have 2 engineers there who absolutely love it, working on all the different things, short feedback cycles, having that. Then we have other people who really enjoy basically the product work, the deep work that I think, at least from my experience in most companies, you don't even get to, because somebody will switch what you're working on every 2 weeks and doesn't even have a clue about it either, right? But they just pretend, and then you never get to finish it, and everything turns into a mess. Here, people really have the time, but they also have the responsibility and all this, learning of a product. And then we have the platform team, which for sure is the more technical team. But I don't like to define it by the technicality and define it more by who the audience is for the team.
Welcome to Shapers and Builders, the show about better ways to deliver great software products. Today I'm speaking with Stephan Bönnemann-Walenta of Prosperity Solutions. Stephan is Managing Director at Prosperity Solutions and responsible for product and engineering. This conversation is part of a series about companies that use ShapeUp, a delivery framework originally created at Basecamp. If you've never heard of ShapeUp, check the show notes for a link to the video Shaping in a Nutshell by Ryan Singer, former head of strategy at Basecamp and author of the book ShapeUp, Stop Running in Circles and Ship Work That Matters. In our conversation, we talk about how Stephan transitioned his engineer's role from pure ticket execution towards taking ownership for end-to-end solutions, the faulty assumptions he made along the way about how all people like to work, as well as the benefit of having no more than 2 engineers per project. We address many of the pitfalls that teams run into when trying to implement ShapeUp and how Stephan resolved them. So if you're thinking about giving ShapeUp a try, this episode will be full of watch-outs and learnings. Enjoy! Hey Stephan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi David, thank you so much for having me.
I want to talk about your experience with ShapeUp today, but before we get into that, can you give us a rundown of your background and your current role at Prosperity Solutions?
Sure. So I'm currently the managing director responsible for product and engineering at Prosperity Solutions, which is part of a group of companies. We are in the pension insurance business and life insurance business. We can talk about that roughly later on, but just that up front, I'm basically responsible for the digital product and the platform that we're having. And that's also what put me in the position to introduce ShapeUp. And then a bit to myself. So I am first and foremost a software engineer. That's what I thought, because that's the roles that I've been working in. But the more I look, the way I look back and how it happened, I realized more and more that it's actually always been a product component in there. So the way I started getting into software development was, the very start was in school. Like, there was a team to take care of the website. So I had contact with HTML and CSS and PHP and JavaScript very early on. And that sat there for a while in the back of my head. And then the iPhone was announced, the original one, 2007. I was still in school. And I was super fascinated by that. Obviously, I wanted to have one, which was impossible as a school kid. And anyways, because of US only and AT&T and all the exclusive contracts that were there. But it again was something that stuck in my head. And then it was, I think, 3-4 years later, I was about to finish school. And a friend approached me who shared this fascination. And he basically said, I figured out that you can build apps for the iPhone with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And that kind of opened the door in my mind from like, okay, this is some dark wizardry and I will never be able to be a software engineer. That's what I was convinced back then. I'm too bad at math. I can never do this. And then I was like, okay, this HTML stuff, it's not too hard. Let's see. But more than that, we talked about what do we want to build, right? And we had this idea of a to-do app. Okay, yet another one. But we took a system called Send to Done. It was really reduced, and it was all about minimalism and having only 3 tasks per day and these kind of things. So it was a perfect testing ground for us, because we also took this minimalism as a feature. We had no idea how to build a backend and a sync and a list of million of tasks. So we could really focus on getting this app out there that pretty much does nothing, shows you 3 things you want to do today and 3 things you want to do in this week. But we went all the way, right? Like we figured out how to do JavaScript. We figured out how to upload it to the App Store. We figured out how to do an email campaign list website, the marketing for it. And like looking back at it now, it's like laughable amounts, but we as school kids, we made some good money. Like we didn't have to do the vacation job or something. And that's how it started. This idea of understanding what I'm building, that's where my interest came from. So like having this vision of what I want to build and how I could build it and how I could change or adapt what I want to build to make certain things easier. That's where my interest came, and not from a purely technical thing where it's like, okay, if I use this algorithm, it's faster and this and that. This is something that never drove me. And I think, or I feel like this is something that I then noticed later on, especially also in ShapeUp, with me assuming that this is how people do software engineering, why they do software engineering, and realizing that having this overlap with product is something that is not a given. And then to fast forward a bit, so after that, I mean, I was kind of hooked into the topic. I would say formally signed up for university, but I was just continuing building apps with this friend. We then also did this on commission basis for other companies, and then I worked for various startups, but always in the software engineering roles. And I think the success there that I had was based on this understanding what I'm building, being very engaged with the product development focus. That's also where a lot of the opinions, thoughts, pains, frustrations came from, because I was not really satisfied with the processes that were there, that were basically not compatible with me having thoughts about the product. They were mostly about, here is some work, do this. And that's how I went forward there. I also got involved with the open source community. I built a package for the Node ecosystem called Semantic Release, which helps you to publish packages. And then that also got me quite a boost in my career, basically, because through that I started going to conferences, speaking at conferences, meetups, getting invited to conferences abroad, meeting community in the US, but also in Argentina, or I was invited to Belgrade once, these kind of things. And that helped me also very early on to get a broad set of experiences and just viewpoints from people, and not just being limited usually where you come from university, go to one company, and then whatever your manager there thinks is your horizon, basically. And that was broadened for me very early on. More recently then got into, of course, managing and teams, and then pretty much having this this question of how do we scale the product development, product engineering, how do we scale this up, how do we make this work with more than a few people who are very well connected, intimate, know what they're doing, know how the other person ticks. How do you turn this from maybe 3-4 engineers to 6, 7, 8? And that's where ShapeUp came in.
I think that's a good segue into asking you to tell us a bit more about Prosperity Solutions.
So I always put out this disclaimer up front, like, okay, I know it sounds terribly boring, like insurance and pension, and nobody wants to think about what happens when you're old. And this is how I thought about this whole topic myself when I first heard about it. I was absolutely not excited about it at all, and then I started to unpack it. So the product environment there, or the legal frameworks on how to do pension insurances, especially in Germany, are very, very complex. I mean, if people in the audience are from Germany, they will they will know what I'm talking about. Even the names of how these products are called, Riestal, Rürup, it's all very confusing. In my opinion, it's even designed not to be comparable. And yet these products it's not like this is something that nobody cares about. It's something that's very, very fast spread, because people, they don't buy this, but they get it sold, right? So you have an insurance broker and they tell you about, if you don't have something, and everyone, especially, I mean, I can talk about Germany. There's this fear of like, there are not enough young people, and what happens when I'm old and I will not have a pension, right? So it is out there. This product is out there. People have it in Germany. There are more contracts than people, but it's not very well understood, even because people don't buy it. They're not like buying a car or buying I don't know, a new smartphone, where they go into the details and know very well what they are getting, why, and comparing things. They just almost, I would also say, have to trust an insurance broker on what are you getting. And this is the environment that we're in. There is a lot of space in the traditional business with insurance brokers, helping them not spend all the time on bureaucracy, filling out forms, managing, especially now that more and more stuff, even for the traditional business, is moving online. Identity verification, signatures, these kind of things, but also calculators. What happens if you pay this much in every month, or what happens if you take a more aggressive investment strategy? What happens if you start later? Calculators visualizing this. But then we are also going into what we call new business or digital business, where we try to take this fully online, so that people can get a pension insurance fully online, go through the application form, which has a lot of steps. Also, because it's regulated to this degree, you have to answer a bunch of questions, and making that so that people would still understand why they're doing this, why they're getting this product, is really a challenge. But it's worth it in the end. We can cut down operational costs. We can make the time that is invested focused on the consultation and not so much on bureaucracy, and then in the end give you a better product for that you also understand. Because then later you also have an application that we develop, where you can track your funds in on a daily basis, which is something that's not very fast spread in the industry. You can manage, like self-manage all your things if you move, or if you change, or want to put an additional payment in or something like that. You can manage that in the app. And we are part of a group which is called the Prosperity Company, based in Liechtenstein. And it's quite interesting, basically, because Liechtenstein is the only country in the world that can access the Swiss market and the entire EEA. So it's like it's a good competitive advantage being there. So we can service Switzerland, which is it's a really good market, of course. And then now we're in Germany, but we can expand there. And then a life insurance company, Liechtenstein Life Assurance, is part of our group. So we have really good access to the insurance, to the broker network, and that allows us to do this digital transformation from within. That's how we like to frame it. We're not a startup. We haven't, like, there's a bunch of VC money, and now we try and fix this problem. But the thing is, as I said before, people don't buy this product. So we cannot, without access to insurances or brokers, we cannot just come in as the newcomer and fix this. Or at least people have tried, and they failed. And so now we can improve the old business, and we can create this new branch of business for the new era. And we don't know where this will lead us. And the good thing is, we don't need to know. We have the time, and we have the flexibility to react and see how it actually develops. It's just that we want to be prepared, or that we are prepared for that inevitable transformation to way more digitalization.
Yeah, makes sense. And just that I understand correctly, so you are end consumer focused in what you do, or do you also have a B2B component of what you do?
We were initially building just the application for the consumers, how we call them, so the end customers, like after they have the policy, they can manage it, and that's what we've been focusing on. And now over the years, we've basically gone up the value chain and first developed this application process where you can get a policy, but now also we're building the software for the insurance brokers, no matter if they are traditional or fully digital. We basically took the application that we have, this consumer app that we offer to all clients of the insurance, and made it a white label product. So now other companies who are, let's say, neobanks or maybe wealth managers or also even insurance brokers, very digital ones, they can take our application process, our app, they can white label it and tailor it to what they need. So maybe they have a certain investment strategy in mind, then they can take our insurance product, and basically we call it wrap it around, right? The insurance is a very slim container which gives you this legal framework, the tax benefits, you put that in, and then people can sell, basically have their own angle at the product. We as Prosperity Solutions, we don't do the B2C, at least the new business, the marketing, right? We have this application for them, but we don't do the marketing there. We leave that to the specialists, because basically, or the partners that we have, because they have this unique angle that they can explain it to their customers, and then that's the requirement for them to stick with the product.
I like that you give this context, because I think it also shapes a bit how you set up the team down the road, right? Because you do have in this, and we'll get into that, but in this white label B2B kind of focused customer situation, you have some solution engineering that you might have to do specific to some clients and so on.
Yes, so we have first of all this triangle of like who are our users, right? And there's a lot of users, different kinds of users, the partners or the insurance brokers, the consumers. We developed our own language there, where we call it partner and consumer, even because a user is everyone, right?
Yeah.
So how do we even understand what they want and the demand side? Also having, as you said, these custom requests or the requirements where a certain partner maybe needs a certain feature or customization, and then we need to understand, is this like, we don't want to do agency work, so how do we get this into the product basically as a request? How do we deal with those? That's not very compatible with having 6 weeks cycles, or is it something that we can elevate into a core feature? And then how do we work with the timelines there, so that we still develop it for the partner case in time?
Yeah, for sure. And just to wrap up this section, kind of, you mentioned Prosperity Solutions, the company that handles the software development. How big is that currently? What's your team size right now?
So the team company size in Berlin, and I say Berlin because that's where the company is based, but we are remote, is 17 people. We're responsible for product and engineering now, so we have 3 teams, and we also are doing the business development, especially for the digital players and in Germany from here. And we have people all over Germany, and also a few people spread out in Zurich and Lisbon. So it's really a remote company. We have most of our people, I would say two-thirds of the people live in Berlin, and then maybe a third of the people are regular office goers, but like every process is fully built for a remote company.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks for clarifying. So I want to understand your first encounters with ShapeUp, and specifically because you hinted at that before. What I see in a lot of the early adopters of ShapeUp that have maybe been followers of Basecamp before and kind of grew alongside that ecosystem, that stream of thought. I think what a lot of them run into is this thinking of, oh, this is so great, I certainly I want to work like this, and I assume that a lot of people will want to work like this, reading it and saying everybody must want to work like this. I'm wondering if that was your reaction as well, and maybe how you dealt with that down the line. But let's start at the beginning and your first encounters with ShapeUp, maybe.
Yeah, so I think when I don't remember the exact point in time, but it must have been around when the book came out. I mean, I've been a follower of 37 Signals and their books and blog posts, so I'm pretty certain now match the timelines must have been 2019. And I think I personally have been at the also transition from being individual contributor to doing more management work, because I was freelancing prior to that and always had this situation as an individual contributor in teams, but also as the special role as the freelancer. And then transitioning into managing a team at the time, because the setup looked promising and we built a team there. So I transitioned within this company from freelance to being the engineering manager. And that's, I think, when I also read the book, so I was in my mind both at the individual contributor perspective, where it's like, okay, this is how I would like to work, but at the same time, maybe 50% at the management side of things as well, because the way that the team worked back then that I managed was, I mean, I don't, if we go into Scrum and what I don't like about it, or my frustrations with it, maybe we need too much time. But that's, I mean, people listening to this podcast, I just assume they can relate to that anyway. So we really had this process that was, yeah, Kanban, but really only worked because we were a small team. I have a long time friend and colleague, David, who's also my co-MD now at Prosperity Solutions. We work together in a lot of projects and companies and settings. And that in that team, he was the product manager and I was the engineering manager, which helped us a lot to, without a lot of processes, just, wake up every morning, figure out what to do, discuss the problems, de-risk stuff. I mean, some components of ShapeUp, I think we were intuitively doing already, framing things, de-risking, and then more or less mouth feeding it to the team, however, which worked well, because there was not much room for things to go terribly wrong. But it was also the more engineers you add, it's not scalable. It was basically just scalable by me working more and David working more, because for every engineer that you need to keep busy, you need to do more of this prep work.
Yeah.
Also not seeing, like, you can see the product and the outcome improved because you're adding new things, but we weren't seeing this transfer of, like, this is how we do trade-offs, this is how we understand the product, and now please do this yourself, right? We were also back then saying we want product minded engineers, we want product engineers, we want people who eventually can do all of this themselves, so that we just give them a problem and then they do this. And this is the vision that I had back then. Okay, we have product minded engineers, we don't need that much of a middle layer there, because they just do it. And what I realized back then is, yeah, it doesn't happen like this. You cannot learn this just from observing, right? And so I read the book. It was for me really obvious. I mean, I have a certain base trust in 37 Signals that the things make sense, but I also it spoke to all the problems that I had, and was this whole package basically. Also of as I said, it's not like every idea in there is so super revolutionary, but having this combined bundle that you can implement was really great. And at this company I tried to do this, but what I realized is especially the 6 weeks part is not doable without buy-in. I was presenting this, but I heard the constraints that you maybe called solutions engineering already, right? Like, but how do we, everything is always changing, and how does this work? And all the basic, naive request that you have where the alternative is just, I mean, what is the default way how people build products? They also just, don't have impact, build something that doesn't matter for this long, take one more week and another week and another week. It's not like this is worse. It's we I'm kind of
At
proposing
least
to
there's
ship
an end to
something.
it, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm proposing the solution to this problem, not creating one. It's like that's exactly the problem that we're having. We are driven partly by these one-time requests, and then we have these tight deadlines and grand plans, and then it's taking yet another week, and like, yeah. But I scratched that. I felt already also at the time the company was going through some changes, and I could also see that maybe this is not where I want to shoot my shot. Basically, I knew that I don't want to waste my energy on fighting something that nobody would understand or support me in. And then at Prosperity, when I came here, I already knew, okay, this is where I want to try this. But basically, when David and me joined as MDs, it was not when the company was founded. So there was some prior code and team and everything was already there. So we took quite some time to clean up, establish new processes. I'm not talking about right or wrong. It was more like building and rebuilding the company to how David and I thought things needed to work. And then maybe 12, 13, 14 months in, I was like, okay, now this is the time. This is the moment I've been waiting for I don't know, over a year or almost 2 years to finally try this shape up thing. And that's when we did it. Also kind of I would say almost spontaneously looking back. I had a product manager who was still rather new, but he also immediately loved the idea and he was super convinced. And then we just started it within a week. We wrote up a bunch of pitches, how we still called them, and just started it. And that's also coming back to your question of like how everyone wants to work. I was just so convinced that again, from my individual contributor perspective, that everyone would just be like, oh wow, finally this makes so much sense. It's let's just dive right in and we will solve all the product questions on our own, and we will take full responsibility, and we can deal with all the ambiguity that hits us now. And that was my naive, now looking back, expectation. And then we worked our way through it. Basically, I mean, we are 10 cycles into it, and it's almost down to a well-oiled machine by now. But it took some time. It was a fun journey. Yeah.
Cool. And I love the overview you've given. I want to definitely dive deep on some of these parts. And the first thing that caught my interest was you mentioned the new product manager joining and who immediately you got excited. And do you remember specifically kind of the conversation and maybe the pitch you made to them about ShapeUp? If you are selling ShapeUp to somebody or trying to get somebody excited, what are the things that you mention?
To be honest, I don't really even recollect the conversation because there was not even a big of a conversation there. It's just something that I'm quite grateful for, because this situation where sometimes you go to someone and like, oh wow, there's this really great book, you should read this book, and then people just don't do it. That's just not how book recommendations work, right? But I was lucky enough. I just gave an overview, and then Flo, the product manager, dove right into it, got it, and I mean, he will probably correct me about this, but from my memory, kind of, read it over some evenings over the weekend, and then the week later we were all over it, and there was not much of a discussion there. That's why I also probably don't remember it. It was just kind of natural. But if I would try to convince someone to use ShapeUp right now, I would say I'm not trying to convince anyone, because what I think is really, really important is if you read the book or the basic pitch of what ShapeUp does, or the video that Ryan recorded, this 20-minute intro, you should have. That's my opinion, but I would almost say you have to have certain feelings. Like you should read this and it should speak to you. There's not much selling that needs to happen, because I'm almost convinced that if there's no such spark, you won't have the breath to implement this in a company. I feel like maybe we will arrive at the point where ShapeUp is so ubiquitous that it's just like clear, and then you get into this and implement it. But right now it's still the early days, and I feel like you need to have certain experiences and pains and frustrations before, and then you will read this and then you will say, okay, I think this is something, and then you can take this forward and implement it, and knowing what trade-offs you're making, what pains you're trading, because there are less of the Scrum agile pains and less of the running around in circles pains, but there are other pains or other efforts that you have to make. And then if you have this mindset, if you like these trade-offs, then you will also go forward. But like there's not much to sell. I mean, sure, I could sell it, but I don't think that would be successful in any way.
Yeah, I agree. Basically, you have to see the problems that ShapeUp can be a fix for, right?
Yes,
and
that that ties also a lot into how the adoption of ShapeUp worked in our team, because as I said, the way I worked in the mode that I worked in this previous company was also the mode that we worked in here. We just woke up in the morning, had a stand up, talked about what we wanted to do. I mean, we had a general plan, but sometimes it would just change a lot, and sometimes it would not change a lot. But doing this, making the decisions, making the calls, doing this preparation, solution, basically the shaping already, de-risking, all of that was basically dependent on David and me doing it on the spot, and it just didn't scale anymore. And that's why once we hit that spot, we hired a few more people, the team grew. And at that point, I was just working and working and working, and that was the only way to make it work. And that's when I said, okay, ShapeUp, now is the time, because that's how we scale this. We need to spread all of this responsibility, making the calls, having this product understanding into the team, because otherwise, I'm not interested in hiring an armada of people just to translate the rough business needs into tickets, and then explaining it, and then going back and forth and acceptance criteria here, and then a QA tester comes around, and then, oh my god, like the usual story basically. But that was not a pain that the team was feeling. So for them, it was maybe a bit smooth sailing even, right? Because there was not much risk, not much to go wrong. There was a very strong technical understanding from the business side, so nobody came hunting like, oh, give me an estimate and this needs to be quicker, and why was this a disaster? And it's like it was all there, right? So maybe it was even relaxed. You just had to do your thing, and then you would do the next thing. And then some people, even maybe it was too boring, so they came up with other things, or came up with engineering challenges that weren't even there or weren't necessary, right? And then we introduced this process, ShapeUp, and said, wow, this is amazing, we can scale up. And all of a sudden, all this responsibility shifted over. Now you have to deal with making trade-offs, understanding what's going on, a deadline that's coming, and that was not a pain point that the engineers had before.
So you could breathe again, but they were now grasping for air, kind of.
And then it came back from, okay, but how are we supposed to know this, and how, like, even the discomfort, or the arranging with the fact that they now have to make the decisions. How are we supposed to know this? Or, like, no, that's the point. I mean, your I would say a certain base smartness is required to be an engineer. You know what our product is about. like there's nothing magic that I'm doing. It's basically that me or David were doing. It's just that we were doing, and by making the decisions, we gave this a direction. But it's not like we are the magic people who know the answer to all of this, and that's how we make progress. It's more like we make the decisions, and that's how we either go in the right direction or we go in the wrong direction, realize it in correct course. And this is something that you need to be comfortable with, to make these decisions and then live with the outcomes or manage them, or see if it was the right one, correct, or do that. And that, again, to the question, wouldn't everyone like to work like that? For me, yes, that's what I wanted all the time. I hated it when somebody else made the decisions, or there was not a certain risk or thrill in it, because that's what I found so interesting. And then I had to make the realization that some engineers don't like that, or what we found in the team, especially the more senior people in the team, were really uncomfortable, because that kind of put them back into a situation where they haven't been anymore. Like, you just look back at, okay, I've been doing this for 20 years and it's all just software development, and I can do my thing here, and
I grab a ticket and I execute it, right?
And you execute it, and it's all nice, and then you come in with all your experience and tell other people how to do it, and then you can teach them, and that's how you get your satisfaction. And then on the side, maybe you write a cool script and automate something, and that's your comfort zone, and that's what you're doing. And all of a sudden, these people who were really comfortable with what they were doing were kind of in a back to school moment of okay, but now I'm supposed to yeah, well, but and that was maybe the biggest conflict in the beginning. And interestingly, the less experienced people with less, or let's say, being more used to learning a lot every day, looking back to what you did 3 months ago and saying, oh my god, I knew nothing, right? This is the learning phase in the career. I mean, it should be constant, but like this extreme learning curve, especially in the technical jobs, for them it was more natural to see, okay, now it's just the next level. I learn a new skill, and they were way more willing or able to jump into this. And this is something that I also tell the team a lot. Like, we are not it's not a technical product. We are not doing rocket science. We don't need to develop a new algorithm for anything. It's really just building products, and people have been building products for a long time. This is not like, if you're interested in these technical things, then this is not what we're doing. We're building products. So understanding, what am I building? Why am I building it? Is there a quicker way? Is now the right time to do a quicker way? Is this something that we should do properly? How will people receive this? Also, what is the language, the product language, right? Like, people build something and then they put lorem ipsum there, or they put some really weird copy there that they just came up with, and it's like, no, that's you can think about this too. I mean, you're building this, you speak the language. What would you put there, at least as a basis, right? And that's what we need, where our value comes from. Like, people have been building forms on the internet for a very long time, and basically, for example, getting an insurance policy is one big form with 1 million fields there, and that's like, sure, it can get complex. There are many states, but still, that's not a hard challenge, or at least it shouldn't be. The challenge is, how do I present this? How do I keep the application in a fast way, not to lose data? Okay, engineering challenge, but like, explaining the context. Why are you answering this? Is this reassuring? Is this even what you care about now? Are we asking too much of you while you haven't understood the product yet? This is what defines the success of what we're doing. And if we reach the point where we need to solve an engineering challenge, like an actual one that maybe not many people have solved before us, then we are successful already. Then it's all great, but it will take time to get there. And if it, yeah, I don't know, you have to go to the Facebooks or Amazons or Googles of this world if you want to be technical and not care about the rest, right?
Mm. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the conversation. I wanted to take a moment to thank you for listening and to let you know about the Shapers and Builders job board. On shapers.builders, yes, that's the domain, you'll find jobs in software development, design, product management, and other roles at companies that work with ShapeUp. Many of these roles are remote, and teams who use ShapeUp generally run at a more sustainable, healthy, and meaningful pace than the hamster wheel of 2-week sprints. So if you're looking for a job in tech or trying to find great people, head over to the Shapers and Builders job board at shapers.builders. Now let's turn back to the conversation. What you said about this discomfort coming in, though, with basically the responsibility of an engineer broadening massively overnight with ShapeUp, not getting spoon-fed tickets anymore that you can kind of blindly, in quotes, execute. How did when you spotted that was an issue? How did you manage it? Because it's understandable, right? Now people are asked to step up and take responsibility, where previously maybe it was a bit easier to hide behind the pure execution part.
Yeah, so in especially in the beginning, what we tried to do basically by force is that the product managers write the pitches, hand it over, and then the responsibility is solely in the team. And that's something we dialed back a bit or a lot, and then try to reduce it again. Is that especially Flo, our product manager, went in with the teams, discussed a lot with them, also guided the way a bit more, not dictating the decisions, but being there, and basically also showing more the process so that they get more comfortable with the decisions. And also it was maybe a lot to ask from observing or getting the handover like before, and then executing to getting a pitch, and then doing all the rest all of a sudden. I mean, where was this supposed to come from? It's not like we went into this completely without any, we knew this is going to be hard and it's going to be a transformation. So that was totally clear. We were committed to doing a few cycles. We knew this would take time, and this is what we then slowly did, still doing a bit of hand holding, and then developing this feel over time, basically. Yeah.
Do you think that that kind of fear of getting reprimanded for making the wrong call played a role in being comfortable about now making decisions about, let's say, UX and general direction, feature, like the design of the implementation?
Maybe that ties into the differentiation that I made between the more senior people and the more junior or mid-level people in the team, because the responsibility, so the setup that we had, basically, because we are building everything with web technology, and then we have basically just a wrapper around so we can ship the web app also to the app stores. And then we have back into the setup that I had in mind back then was I had a staff engineer that was very concerned with mobile and front end, and one staff engineer that was very concerned with back end, and then filling so they can basically give the guardrails and the guidelines for the architecture. And then in the middle we had a lot of full stack engineers who can then be focused on the on building the features. And sure, I mean, there's this fear comes with it to do something wrong, but it was more of a general feeling that it was unsatisfying before as well, that we knew there were a lot of bugs or things were not clear, and then it was always going back to the team, hey, we need to work on this again. Okay. And then, but why don't we have a QA engineer who will test it all for us? No, it's your own responsibility, having this back and forth. So like it was already not ideal before. So I feel like it's at least for these engineers in the middle, I would say it was fine. But the staff engineers, all of a sudden, they had this reprimanded is maybe a bit much, but they had a lot of responsibility on their shoulders now, because like, okay, the pitch is ending and maybe it's not ideal what we did there, or now we had something, a feature that we built in our very, very first cycle that we pretty much had to, we lived with it for a while, but it's completely rolled back by now. It was not a disaster. That's also something that we try to tell and live everyone, right? That this is how we do it. We are very comfortable with shipping unfinished software is maybe a bit much, but like bare bones things, or also having something out there for a few weeks that's maybe not ideal, because the alternative is basically not doing anything at all, right? So I mean, it's also hard for me to say, because I would like to say no, nobody was driven by fears, but that's maybe my perspective. And if you talk to the team, they had a different experience there. But it was, I would like to say, more of a shared frustration of like, how do we move this forward? We had a good spirit in the team, very, very positive. We knew we are onto something, right? This was also right about the time when we transitioned from just building the consumer app to building this onboarding flow. So it was one of the first times that we were actually not just optimizing and tweaking and fixing existing things, but actually building a full feature of our own, coming from, the stuff that's there is so broken and this is broken, and we just fix it. And it was very short-lived dopamine cycle of, this is now this much better and this flows better and this is better, to, okay, now there's a green field, and now we have to deal with starting from not zero, but like building features from scratch, and living with the consequences of what that means, not making the right decision all the time, not seeing the wrong decisions that were made before, but really just starting from zero. What are we supposed to do? Yeah, and that's where we had to move forward. Also, the team was very small back then, 3, 4, 5 engineers. So a lot of the pitches that we had were also all consuming, or almost like, at least the maximum was 2, right? So it was also the work of 2 months was condensed into the cycle ending, and it felt a bit high stakes also, because we didn't have this lightness of, okay, yeah, if this package fails, or if this pitch fails, that's fine, that's part of the game, also as described in the book, then we don't ship it. There was certainly a pressure for us to deliver as well, and it was not so optional at the end of the 6 weeks that we ship something. And this is way more light now. We have, of course, more people, but we also adopted a maximum of 2 people per package, as we call them now, and it's way lighter now, so that I would say the fear drivenness is very reduced, and also something that we adopted is talking about latitude in packages. This is something that was always implied in the beginning. Like, I had a very clear image, and also the other product manager of and the business side, we had a clear image of how sure are we on certain aspects of the solutions. This is a must-have, or this is more flexible. And then we also try to accommodate the team, and basically wrote like, okay, but this is a bonus, or this is just a suggestion. And this is also maybe something that I want to do from my experience. I don't feel so comfortable putting something out there and saying this is how it has to be, because I know it can make engineers uncomfortable, and also can have the opposite reaction, where they're like, okay, somebody presented me with a solution of how it has to be. Now, because I am an engineer, I will find another and a better way. And that's why we're putting in these statements here and there, and softening it, and trying to make it more open, which we then learned is actually harmful. and now we are leaving off this bonus, or this is just a suggestion. We are describing things, but then also making a statement of the latitude and saying, okay, this is really low latitude. This is how it has to be in the shaping. We dove deep into the APIs and the architecture, and this is how we think how it needs to be. And then there are others that are like super high latitude. Go ahead, figure it out. There's a lot of architectural work still to be done, and that also helps a lot by now that engineers don't just have to read it from between the lines, where they can go a bit more wild or explorative, and where it's about shipping things, and that helped a lot, because in the beginning that was just not there. It's sometimes we thought, okay, it's so clear, you just have to do this and that, and then it turned into a whole discussion of something else, or rewriting this, or refactoring that, or no, we first need to do this, and then can we just add another week to this, and these usual problems, like where you need to live with the fixed time, and that's something we always protected. Like, nope, there's a fixed time, and find a way, basically. But yeah, it was maybe not the easiest thing to deal with what that means, also without having prior cycles. Right now we can look back to 8-9 cycles that we have done, and we have also in how we talk, remember this one, how we did it there, or that, or how that went wrong, and then it's easier. We didn't have that. We just, everything we were doing was a new situation, and that's what we learned to deal with. And that's where I would also say, I don't think you can learn so much from reading the book more often, or watching another conference talk, or even listening to this podcast, right? I think what it should do, it should speak to you in these frustrations. Like, okay, either you already have Shape Up, and then you get an idea for how you can tweak something, or if you have not adopted Shape Up yet, it should more speak to this inner feeling within you of like, okay, wow, this could really release the pain, or relieve the pain here. But it's not like you can listen to this like, oh, this is a mistake that I will avoid, because it's like, it's so dependent on where's the initiative coming from to adopt Shape Up, where's the team, how is the culture, how is the context from the business. I think you have to have this desire to fix the frustrations, and then make these experiences yourself. I can only tell how it was for us, and it might be similar, but it might be completely something else in the end.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd love to get a kind of a bird's eye overview of the process that you found now. And you talked about some of these things, how the learnings played into what you have now, with now basically you being very explicit about which parts of the pitch have latitude, which don't. And what does your process look like now, and what fixes have you made specifically along the way?
So when we initially started Shaper, we were thinking of mostly the delivery side of things. And if you look at also in the book how a feature goes from idea to being shipped, then it's first shaped, then there's a betting table, then people work on it, and we were doing it backwards, right? We didn't care so much about betting table or any of those things. We were anyways kind of set on what needs to be built, put this in a pitch document, and then gave it to the team, and we're focused on the team doing basically building this, and in the given time frame. And then we worked our way backwards to what does shaping mean, how can we improve that, is the betting table even the right thing for us? And we kind of went, or this betting table was always floating around in the air, because it was there right in the middle, in the center of this book, there's a betting table, and we never did it. Like, it just never happened. We we're happy when we had the pitches written in time for the cycle to start, and I was hesitant to go in and change the change how ShapeUp works, because I felt like, okay, there is a certain wiring between things and it has to be a certain way. But what we kind of did out of necessity, we adopted framing, where we talked about things roughly from business side, aligned it with everyone, and then only that we go into shaping. And this is something that we didn't have the language to. We just did it, and then I was again. This was again this feeling of relief, because only then I realized that Ryan is very active in his blog and developing this shape up further. I just realized it as this one-time creation book that is there, and that's what I went back to. I don't know what went wrong with me that I never Googled it or like looked into the community there. I was just so busy implementing it, and then I found out, okay, framing, shaping, there is all of this out there, and I was both relieved to find that there is prior thought on this, words for it, framing, shaping, but also that we had kind of arrived at this on our own, and then it was this, relief to put it in place, and this is how we do it now. We went back from just being focused on the delivery. We most of the cycles have our packages done in time, and we have framing sessions where we agree on what we do. What is worth looking into and shaping. And then from the team side, we grew to a bit more than 10 engineers by now. And what we did end of last year, we split up the teams. So before we always had one big mega team, and it was already clear, okay, like 7, 8 engineers, this is the line where this will get harder and harder and harder. We also noticed that our stand-ups got really disengaged because people were talking about things that the others were not concerned with. And then kind of we started having a stand-up and then another stand-up for individual groups afterwards, and it was time to break it up. And the way we went is we have 3 teams. One is the platform team, one is the product team, and one is the solution team. And for me, platform is very important, and this is something that I emphasized a lot with the team. This is not the back-end team. This is not the hardcore tech whatever thing. It's more about who is the customer of this team. And so at the time, we also started, as I said earlier, we built software for the brokers as well now. This was also the time when we started having 2 products, a consumer app and software for brokers. So we now have this platform team, which is building things, whatever it takes. It might be infrastructure, it might be backend, but it can also be how is our front-end architecture working, these kind of things. But the customers of this team are the product and the solutions team. And then we have the product team, which is basically moving our very core. It's the biggest team. It's where the strategic initiatives go, where we have it's protected basically from both sides. We have the platform team that makes the architecture, the heavy lifting work for them. It's out of the way. And we have the solutions team that takes care of shorter term requests, and they can really go into the deep and long work and figure out our core product, move that forward. And then we have the solutions team, which is deliberately our smallest team, where we take care of our websites, our partner integrations, custom flows, these kind of things, but also bugs or sometimes also adding tiny things to a package that comes out of the product team, where the product team shipped it and made certain trade-offs, and it's fine for us and it was shipped. But then afterwards, we realized, okay, we need to tweak this a bit. There's some feedback, and then also the solutions team will go into the core products. Like, we don't have boundaries across repositories or anything. Everyone works on everything, but then the solutions team can also go in and like, okay, this graph should look a bit different. What we found out now, we don't need to put up a whole new package and do that. We just do it on the spot. And so the platform and the product team work in ShapeUp, and then in the solutions team, we went back to our YOLO mode, right, where we just wake up in the morning, talk about what we want to do and want to do it. And it's something that I'm also very happy about, because we can really speak to the interests and talents of the people in the team now. Where some engineers, it would be a nightmare to work in a solutions team, and now we have 2 engineers there who absolutely love it. working on all the different things, short feedback cycles, having that. Then we have other people who really enjoy and basically the product work, the deep work that I think, at least from my experience in most companies, you don't even get to, because somebody will switch what you're working on every 2 weeks and doesn't even have a clue about it either, right? But they just pretend, and then you never get to finish it, and everything turns into a mess. Here, people really have the time, but they also have the responsibility and all this learning of a product. And then we have the platform team, which for sure is the more technical team, but I don't like to define it by the technicality and define it more by who the audience is for the team. As I said, also we have this maximum of 2 people per team thing, which we adopted with great success. We like to think that everyone in the team is a great communicator, but it's just that both the communication within the team, we have the teams, which we call platform and product and so on, but we also have the teams working on one package, so the package team, so to say. Them carrying the responsibility gets also even easier. We had this experience where 5 people were on one package, and what naturally happened, which was this idea of, okay, this is really important, let's put 5 people on this. It turned into actually having less responsibility and accountability, because for this team to even be functional, what they started doing is basically micro or virtual scrum almost, where okay, let's cut this into certain tickets or packages. Nobody was writing tickets, or at least not more than a headline or something. But okay, we need to work on this somehow. So how about you take care of this, and you take care, and all of the things that Shaper was supposed to prevent, not cutting the features apart, but having slices. And this is what started happen naturally, because how do you keep 5 people busy, right? And now we limit it to 2 people. You can't do that. You cannot just go off and okay, I'll just take care of the backend or this thing, or no, everything is in your hands, kind of, and you're more forced to make the trade-offs, to be there and evaluate. Okay, the deadline is coming closer. What are the trade-offs that we're making? And what we found as well is that this helps us to actually grow the people faster, because we can. This is also something that we learned. We can tailor the packages to the people that are working on them. Something that I think also, especially in the vanilla shape-up way is described in the book, is you write the pitch, then it goes to the betting table, and then you assign it to the team. And here we are writing it specifically with the people working on it in mind, so we can also, with the latitude, tailor it to the experience and the talents of the people, not just in giving them something that they are good at, but also giving them something that they want to grow in or that they are interested in. And then all of a sudden, even if you are junior, if you're a junior engineer, you can work on something and own it end to end. And this is something where usually in your career, it would take you a long time to be responsible for something. But we just define upfront how big the risk can be, and then it's theirs to do, and that helps the team members to grow super rapidly. And that's something that we're quite happy with. And then, I mean, what else is there? We have we organize our packages in Notion. So we have a database there. So you have all the different overviews. You can put it in a timeline, so you can see the cycles and everything. You can filter it down by the cycle, by the team. So the different teams have their spaces. And then we basically collaborate on the in the product team. When we write the packages, we collaborate on Notion to write them, but it's more of this, discussing also in intensive calls, discussing what we want. Then one person brings it, writes it down, and then we iterate a bit on the text, making sure that the ideas are transferred, and then we hand it over to the team. Yeah.
Cool. And you just touched on it. The shaping is done by then the product manager, Flo, you mentioned, and yourself.
So we have also an engineering manager who is product engineering manager. So we really don't like to draw this line pretty much. So we have our product manager who knows enough about tech, and we have an engineering manager who's also very much understands and product, similar to myself in that sense. And then we split that up. Basically, we write the pitches there. We are still trying to figure out where to put design there. We have a certain idea. We're also hiring a designer right now, because the design should be part of the shaping. But it's similar. I mean, I talked a lot about the engineers now, but it's a similar transformation to designers not being able to put out a Figma screen and then this is how it gets implemented. Pretty much being ripped off all your tools, like you you have a fat marker sketch or whatever it is, or maybe even just words in this package, and that's all of a sudden what design is supposed to be. That's a challenge, at least for I can only speak for the designers that I've worked with in this setup. And again, no right or wrong. It's there's a place for all of this, but we are committed to the shape up thing, and there is not so much room for somebody to just put up a high fidelity mock-up and a click prototype. That's just not what we need. We discuss it, shape it, and then the team ships it, and then whatever the team ships is our prototype, and not something that you can click around with on Figma. Again, it's we're not a B2C app. We're not winning by having the greatest animations or the latest UI interaction pattern. We can base a lot on best practices. I think we also have a great bunch of people who have an intuitive understanding, and yet we still need an expert on this. It's not I don't want to downplay this. It's very important, and the last thing we want to do is ship software that's just hard to use. But yeah, we are also not in need for the latest background gradient pattern, or the border radius of this and that. Like, that's not, again, also what I said before, this is not the value that we have. Just like it's not the value how a certain algorithm is tuned. It's not the value that we provide is by having the shiniest UI. It's really more about, especially in this phase, about things working well, being understandable. I think the biggest and the most underestimated design tool that we have is language. And that's what we focus on, and what we also try to make part of this shaping process already. Yeah.
We're coming up a bit on time, so I do want to talk about with you about one last topic that you mentioned to me before our call, about kind of having ideas, bringing the Shaper community together in a real life setting, right? Do you want to talk about your current state of mind on that?
Yeah. So as I said in the intro, I got lucky to be at a lot of meetups and conferences, and I also organized a conference myself. I mean, with Corona, everything died down, anyways. But I'm feeling this urge for some time now to do something again. But I don't just want to bring back the pre-Corona times of yet another conference, even bigger, even more entertainment program and open bars and whatnot. I'm thinking about how can you do events, in-person events, that are really focused a lot on deep exchange, on the conversations, but also making them inclusive, making them diverse, and very important, sustainable for the organizers. Because either you have commercialized events that, again, also no right or wrong, it's just, for me, I hate them. I really hate going somewhere where it's just a big advertisement and then a tiny bit of content sprinkled in. I want this independent content, but then that mostly happens through either volunteer work or or independent companies, and then it's just a lot of work for them. So I'm trying to strip down an event to what I really like, which is deep conversations, in person, focused, not so much sponsoring corporate, but like really open conversation. And then cutting out all the organization overhead of that, like what is the catering going to be like, or who is booking this booth and this sponsor jumped off, right? So and then that was the urge that I was feeling. And then Shape Up, I realized that the community and the adoption is really growing right now, and that's why I want to combine these two things into basically an all day event with a small amount of people, something like 30-40. I will have to see how many fit into our office. That's why I'm planning, just again to make it easy for organization, and then having not just this usual. So I don't want to make this a regular thing, at least not now. It's just a one-time thing. I want there to be 30 people. It's not going to be first come, first serve. So it's full of people who check their LinkedIn feed in real time and book a ticket or something. I want to make it a small application form, but not in a sense of like you apply to go there, but like you fill out, are you designer, engineer, product, business? Have you used ShapeUp or not? Or what are your thoughts on this? And then basically curating the audience. So we have a really good mix of people who are already using ShapeUp, a few people who are interested or have maybe another opinion, designers, like having this good mix there. And then basically being able to move forward a step from the talks or discussions that I've seen about ShapeUp is always this, here's this new thing and this is how it works and this is the base concepts. And I want to really have an event where this is a given, where you can assume that people know what ShapeUp is, and then go a bit deeper, basically the conversation that we just had, but times 30 and doing that all day long, also making it a whole day so it's attractive for people to travel. It's going to be in Berlin in our office. So yeah, if you want to take the train or a plane to go there, maybe from Europe at least, it should be worth it. And then I would like to curate a few talks, but also make it open, spontaneous talks, lightning talks, sessions, these kind of things, and just make it a full day of ShapeUp basically. I thinking about when to do it. I think this fall would be a good time, so it leaves me some time to gather some interest, and the exact details will follow. But I for this moment, again, I'm trying to keep it light for me as an organizer. There's just a LinkedIn group which is called Framing, Shaping, Shipping. We can put the link in the show notes maybe, so you can join that. You can join that group, and then I will develop it from there. But there's not going to be a big website or a big anything. I really want us to be bare bones, easy, and then we focus talking about ShapeUp. Yeah, that would be the idea.
That sounds amazing. Cool. I love the idea. I mean, I think it matches very much the intent of the podcast as well. So I'll definitely link to that in the show notes. And if folks are interested this fall to come to Berlin and engage with the ShapeUp community for a day,
that's the plan. Yeah,
sounds amazing.
As I said, I think the people who are using ShapeUp already are the people who are feeling this pain. Otherwise, how would you find it? How would you find the strength to apply it, right? And that's why I think it's so important to bring the people together, because before ShapeUp becomes the next big thing and there are a million people who use ShapeUp, I think right now it's a really great selection of people who are in this topic, because they have a certain mindset or alignment of interest, and that's what I want to foster, bring into one room and see whatever happens. I mean, if it's just a nice day, that's great, but maybe something bigger happens, or a new concept comes out of it, or we realize that ShapeUp doesn't make any sense and we go back to Scrum, even though I don't think that will happen. Yeah.
Cool. Beyond the LinkedIn group, how can people reach out if they want to connect with you?
So the best is probably LinkedIn these days. Stephan Bönnemann-Walenta, which is a lot to type. You can also go to my website, which is sbw.one, and then it's all linked up there. It's a bit less to type. I pretty much stopped using Twitter, so yeah, that would be the place. Yeah.
Cool, and I'll also link that, of course. Great, Stephan. Thank you so much for your time. Do you have any last words of wisdom that you want to share?
First of all, thank you. Also, I think it's great that you're doing this podcast and doing also your part to bring this community together. I really appreciate that. And then the last words of wisdom, I can only reiterate that listen to this episode or the other episodes, and yeah, I think almost like you will feel it yourself if this is something for you that you want to try, and if it doesn't speak to you, then don't force it. That's how I think about it. I'm not evangelizing anyone. I'm happy to talk to anyone or exchange ideas or thoughts, or if you have questions, you can reach out to me. I'm super happy. But if you're like, this doesn't make any sense to me, then I am super happy to leave you. I mean, I'm also interested to hear why you don't, but like, yeah, if you don't want to use it, then it's probably for the better of yourself and your team.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Stephan. I certainly did. If you like this show, please leave us a favorable review on your podcast platform of choice. And to find jobs at companies that work with ShapeUp, like Prosperity Solutions, remember to check out our job board at shapers.builders. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.